Good afternoon, my fellow beauty and barber professionals. It is yours truly, Tamara Johnson Shealy, President of the Concerned Beauty Professionals, Senior Advocate for Politics Beauty. Coming to you today, we're going to talk about our industry and where we're going, next steps, how we strategize and organize and mobilize. We have a lot of work to do. This is our industry, and there's a corporate agenda that is bigger than all of us. I'm going to invite someone to speak with you today. His name is Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher has been invited to this Facebook Live post. Let's get him chimed in here. It says invite. He is connected. Here he is. Fellow beauty and barber professionals, that's Mr. Bill Fletcher himself. How are you, Mr. Fletcher?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be doing this. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Thank you for joining me on this call, on this Facebook Live. I'm so used to being on conference calls, but on this Facebook Live post, I really want to introduce my industry to you, and I want my industry to really know who you are, and you to them, because I really want us to start talking about next steps and how we move our industry forward. We have a lot of problems politically, and I know you're the man that can help us strategize our next move. So why don't you introduce yourself? I'm excited to have you.
Well, I'm glad to be on this and having this discussion with you. So I've been an activist since I was a kid. When I was in high school, I became very active in fighting for social justice. Went to college and remained active, and then got out of college and got directly involved in the labor movement. And I've been involved in the labor movement for now 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I look like I'm 25, I know, but
yeah, you do.
But yeah, for 40 years. And so I've been a member of different unions. I've worked for several, including I was the assistant to the president of the National AFL-CIO, which is the federation of most of the unions in the United States. And I served in that position for several years. I also ran an organization called Trans-Africa Forum that some people may be familiar with, that was the lead organization in fighting against apartheid in South Africa. And I was the second president of the organization after the founder, Randall Robinson, stepped down. And so I also do a lot of writing and speaking, and the way you and I connected was in discussing issues of strategy and discussing what's going on in your industry and the need to build organization and how that happens. And it's not magic, but it takes a lot of work. And so I think that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. You know, our industry, I have been fighting for a long time, Mr. Fletcher, along with some great advocates nationally that, you know, we see the problems, but the root of our problem, Mr. Fletcher, is that we've never been organized as an industry. We've always had the manufacturers and the schools and everybody else make decisions for us as professionals. And it reminds me of everything that's happened in the labor movement where, you know, workers and the issues that workers have are never addressed from the worker perspective. They're only addressed from the perspective of the owners of the businesses and, you know, bigger agendas. And we're the ones in the trenches doing this every day, day in and day out. And when we met, I knew that you were definitely someone that I wanted to work with, and I wanted you to help navigate my thinking around how we build a movement for professionals where we change the game. We want to change the state and the fate of our industry because it's not in our hands anymore, Mr. Fletcher.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things, Tamara, is this, that your industry is built along independent companies that around the country, and they don't necessarily work together. they come together at different points. Like you and I have talked about some of these conventions that take place. And so people will come together, but they're basically on their own. And part of what's important in transforming any kind of industry is building a sense of collectivity, that we're all in this together, that there are certain common interests that we have, even when we have significant differences, and that we need to build some sort of apparatus that unites us in order to achieve a common objective. And I think, in our discussions, it sounds like that's central to your agenda and what needs to happen. But there are significant obstacles because there are people that will say, I don't need anyone else. I'm just doing fine. I'll do fine on my own. There will be...
We're not doing fine on our own, Mr. Fletcher.
I believe you. But, there's people that can engage in a lot of delusion. And so the whole process of organizing is to convince people that, no, we actually are not doing fine, that we need to come together, we need to build something together, and it's going to take time. And that's the other piece, that there is no silver bullet. This is a process that involves a lot of discussions with people around the country of identifying who are the leaders in different states. And I don't mean people that have titles necessarily, but the people that are leaders in your industry and that influence others, and they need to be at the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In our industry, we've been so fragmented over the years. Like I said, we've never been organized, and I don't think we've ever understood the need to be organized. But we understand it now, Mr. Fletcher, because it's affecting us in our pockets. Mm-hmm. The money that we used to make in this industry, we don't make that kind of money anymore. And now we're kind of seeing our educational standards are being lowered. You just see our industry just coming to some sort of demise. Like, there's so many entities now that have their hands in our industry, and the workers, we're not benefiting at all. So there needs to be some sort of strategy around, organizing, addressing the problems that affect us. Because in every state, Mr. Fletcher, the laws are so different state to state, but we need to create some sort of uniformity in our laws. Like, we have so much work to do. And we, as an organization, Politics Beauty, we've been doing this. We're like going into November will be 6 years that we've been doing this. So when you talk about time, we've spent almost 6 years so far, and we're still like at baby steps with what needs to be done with the entirety of our industry.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things here. So one is that there needs to be a discussion in the different states that's actually pulled together by people who in your industry are recognized as leaders.
Yes.
And there needs to be a discussion about, okay, so what are these issues that we're up against and what can we do about them? But the other part of the discussion has to do with the public. And it goes back to some talks that you and I have had, that it's not enough to build organization and influence within your industry. You have to convince the public, because some of what you've described to me necessitates statutory or regulatory changes. Yes. Well, that means that you've got to get people on the outside that may not be in your industry that actually care and that think that you're raising something that they need to do something about. Because if you can't get key elements of the broader public, you're going to lose. It's really as simple as that.
That's where our influence with our clients, Mr. Fletcher, is so pivotal, because we touch these people day in and day out. We know their children, we know their families, we know their stories. Like, we know these people. Guess what? Once we touch them, they tell their families, they tell their friends. Like, we have the influence and the power in this industry to do just that, Mr. Fletcher.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think you do, but now you need organization. It's one thing to talk to somebody when you're cutting their hair, right? I have many discussions with my barber, and they're great. And then I leave the barbershop and I get on with the rest of my life. And I'm not necessarily thinking about the issues that he raised. And it's not a reflection on him. It's not a reflection on me. I'm just not thinking about them until I return to the shop. And so the question then is making use of these connections, making use of these networks that people in your industry have in order to organize the support, right?
Yes.
That's the thing, organizing the support.
So there's 3 steps to what we are working on, and I mentioned this to you a little bit ago. And Mr. Fletcher, I totally see you as our strategy. I see you as the person that I want to help our organization facilitate strategy around this entire movement. And we are hosting an event, my fellow beauty and barber professionals. We are hosting an event this coming February 5th and 6th at the Georgia State Capitol. This is the 5th year that we've actually done this event. We call this Industry Days at the Capitol. Well, this is an opportunity for us to take a full day. I'd like to invite Mr. Fletcher, and I'm inviting him publicly because I want you guys to know we have to have somebody who has a working knowledge of how to create this strategy, because we've been trying to organize, but now we need to take our efforts to the next level. Mr. Fletcher, thankfully you've been giving me advice along the way for years now, and I appreciate it. But we now have to take what you've given me and we have to like build on that, because what you've given me is just a little bit of what we actually need. So I'm inviting Mr. Fletcher publicly, but I can't invite him without the support of the industry. So we're having our event again. It's February 5th and 6th, and I'm asking that we come together and have Mr. Fletcher train us for a full day on that February the 5th, on that Monday, a full day of advocacy training. Let's talk about the strategy. Let's get these industry leaders to the table, and let's figure out state to state to state what we actually need to move our industry forward. I am working right now on a blog post where there's a coalition that already exists that's been going around state to state, and they've been deregulating our industry. And we've been only, as an organization, Politics Beauty, we've been only able to stop it in one state, and that's Nebraska. So I'm gonna give Nebraska a huge shout out, because we have some fierce advocates in the state of Nebraska that are working hard. But Nebraska can't be the only state out of all the states in the union that we're able to stop legislation that's designed to destroy our industry, devalue us as professionals. So I'm publicly inviting Mr. Fletcher, but I can't invite Mr. Fletcher because guess what? We got to make sure Mr. Fletcher is, we got to get him here. We got to make sure he's compensated accordingly. When I tell you he's the best of the best of the best, he's the best of the best of the best. So I'm asking you, my fellow beauty professionals, to get on board, be a part of what we're doing, join our organization. I'm getting ready to put this video in a blog post. I'm going to blast this stuff all over the place. I'm asking that you share it with other professionals, share it with your clients. Be in Atlanta, be a part of this. Put your money where your mouth is, and get these people that don't have a heart for our industry out of our industry. Put the money back into your pockets, not into the pockets of these corporations, into these unlicensed professionals that are robbing us blind. So we have to be organized. So Mr. Fletcher, we need you. I get on my soapbox because I'm so passionate. Well, we need you.
Yeah, well, I'm deeply honored by that. And so here's the thing, Tamara. I think that people that are listening to you need to think very seriously about what you're putting forward to them, because you're not, to be clear to everyone that's listening, you're not asking people to come and passively observe something. You're asking people to get involved, and that nothing will happen unless they take some steps forward. So that's what's really important for people that are watching this, that they understand, and that nothing is going to change based on magic or good wishes or whatever else. It's going to change based on power and building power, and that means organization. So this discussion that you're proposing for February 5th, people need to understand this is not, it would not be about just giving speeches. This is about thinking through, as you said, what does the industry look like? What are the challenges? And what really needs to be done in order to win? I mean, there's a lot of forces, as you said. You mentioned this one particular coalition that's trying to deregulate. Deregulation is part of the climate that we're in. You know, it's the climate of Donald Trump. It's the climate of McConnell. It's the climate of these political forces that are saying it's better to deregulate. And you're arguing something very different in the name of the people that work in the industry as well as the clients. And to move that, you need organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking you, my fellow beauty and barber professionals, to pay attention, share this post. Like I said, I'll have a blog post that's going out that'll have not just this video, but it's going to have another video, 2 more videos with some phenomenal people. We have resources that are available to us as an industry. We have to tap into this. Mr. Fletcher can help us strategize and put this thing together. I'd like to see him come every year, and we take this thing to the next level. Every year we're building on the previous year, and we're actually moving the needle, and we're setting the standards for what our industry is to look like nationwide. So I'm just encouraging you, beauty and barber professionals. The time is now, because guess what happened today? My oldest son today just started barber school. So what I've done is now I have another generation that is now taking what I've done to the next level, because I'm going to totally support him. We got to support this next generation. And the industry that was around for me, I want to make sure it's around for him. I like to see my grandkids and my great grandkids come into this industry. But if we don't protect it and we don't build it up right now, it won't be here for them. And I'm not going out like that. So for those of you that are watching and listening, I'm asking that you please share this video. February the 5th, 2018, we need Mr. Fletcher. So join us, donate to us, be a part of this process. We're taking this thing to the next level. Mr. Fletcher, you want to have some words, final words for my industry?
Well, I mean, again, I appreciate this, and I think that everyone has to understand that Martin Luther King made the statement about either we hang together or we hang separately. And I think that is really applicable in every organizing situation among people that are being stomped on. And it certainly is the case in your industry. I know that there are people that think they don't need organization. They can do it just fine. They'll figure out a deal to cut. And it's sort of like, playing the lottery. I mean, there will be somebody that wins the lottery, right? I mean, there will be. But
all of us won't win.
Exactly. There you go. That's the point. And so that woman in Chicopee, Massachusetts got zillions of dollars. That's great for her. But for the rest of us, nothing. And it's the same thing. In your industry, there are people that are good. There will be individuals that are going to do fine without organization. The problem is that most people are not going to do fine without organization. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue to be steamrolled. So this is an opportunity to flip the script.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher, for joining us. We had a lot of viewers today. I love you, beauty and barber professionals. We're going to take this industry back. We're going to take this industry to the next level. And it's going to be people like Mr. Fletcher. I have 2 more surprise guests that you'll hear from later on that are going to help us take this industry back into the next level. I appreciate you and I love you. Mwah.
All right. Take care then.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.